John Masefield. For a lot of people, that name probably brings to mind the crash of waves and the smell of salt in the air. But what if I told you that the very same guy who wrote about the brutal, tough life of a sailor also dreamed up some of the most enchanting, magical worlds in all of literature? Well, today we're diving into the incredible, surprising journey of a writer who truly contained multitudes. I must go down to the seas again. I mean, just listen to that. It doesn't sound like a choice, does it? It sounds more like a deep, undeniable urge. This single line, one of the most famous in English poetry, isn't just about loving the ocean. Nope. It's about an inescapable, almost spiritual pull that really defined John Masefield and became the anchor for his entire literary world. So, to really get Masefield, we're going to follow his own currents. We'll start where he did, as the poet of the sea, and we'll listen to his ballads of salt water. Then we'll follow him ashore for his tales of land and soul, before taking this really surprising turn into his magical journeys into fantasy. And finally, we'll see how all these different streams flow together into one powerful, lasting legacy. Okay, so who is the man behind these famous lines, really? John Masefield was, without a doubt, a giant of British literature. But to find his origins, you don't look in a quiet library. No, you have to look to the deck of a ship. His story really begins out there, on the open ocean. Get this, Masefield was the UK's poet laureate for almost 40 years, from 1930 all the way until he died in 1967. That is an incredible legacy. But that royal title, it never really defined him. What truly fueled his work wasn't the crown, it was the sea. You see, those early years he spent as a sailor weren't just a fun fact for his biography. They were the absolute bedrock of his art. And that bedrock of real, raw experience gave his writing this undeniable power. So let's look at the work that first made him famous, where he basically channeled the rhythm of the waves into poetry so vivid you could almost feel the sea spray on your face. His major collection, Saltwater Ballads, is just a masterclass in authenticity. I mean, Masefield wasn't some outsider looking in from the shore. He was one of them. He wrote from experience, and he captured the true joys and the brutal hardships of a sailor's life, and always that immense, overwhelming presence of the ocean itself. And this was his unique gift, He didn't just write pretty verses about waves, he told stories. His poems are true ballads, mixing these powerful narratives with beautiful, easy-to-understand language. In his hands, the lives of ordinary sailors suddenly became epic. But just when the world thought they had him figured out as the sea poet, Masefield dropped anchor and turned his gaze inland. He was about to prove that his real subject wasn't just the ocean, but something just as vast and turbulent, the human soul. So in 1911, he publishes this long narrative poem, The Everlasting Mercy. And let me tell you, it was a bombshell. It told the story of a sinner's gritty path to redemption, not in some lofty poetic language, but in the raw, everyday slang of the streets. This was completely unheard of at the time. It was real, it was gritty, and it proved his artistic range was way wider than anyone had suspected. And then, the very next year, he shifts gears again, going from that gritty poetry to this deep, philosophical prose. His book, The Sea and the Jungle, tells the story of his journey to Brazil, but trust me, it's so much more than a travel diary. It's really a profound meditation on the clash between human order and the untamed power of nature. Right at the heart of the book is this powerful contrast. On one side, you've got the chaotic, overwhelming beauty of the Amazon rainforest, just pure, untamed wilderness. And on the other, you have the structured, orderly life on a ship, this little bubble of human civilization. Masefield just brilliantly explores this fundamental tension between our world and the wild one. So we've got the poet of the sea and the chronicler of the soul. But Masefield's journey was far from over. He was about to set sail for his most unexpected destination yet, the realm of pure fantasy and children's books. I know, it seems almost impossible, but it's totally true. This same writer who described the harsh, unforgiving world of sailors became one of the most beloved children's authors of his generation. This pivot is just a stunning testament to the sheer breadth of his imagination. And his masterpiece in this genre has to be The Box of Delights. It's this classic tale of a young boy, Kay, who gets his hands on a magical box. And this isn't just any old box. It lets him shrink, fly, even travel through time itself. But with that great power comes a huge battle against dark forces who want the box, and the fate of Christmas is hanging in the balance. It's just pure, enchanting adventure. Through these fantasy novels, Masefield wasn't just telling magical stories. He was exploring these timeless themes. And it shows that no matter who his audience was, whether they were sailors or children, his focus was always on the same fundamental human values, things like courage, friendship, and the boundless power of imagination. So we've seen the sea, the land, and the world of pure fantasy. How do all these seemingly separate worlds actually come together? What is the single powerful legacy that John Masefield left behind? Well, his legacy is really built on a few key pillars. First, his lyrical and vivid imagery that just stays with you long after you finish reading. He managed to do this using simple, accessible language, which really opened up poetry to a much wider audience. His versatility across genres is still astounding today. But underneath it all, whether he was on a ship or in a magical forest, was this deep exploration of universal themes, always grounded in an unmatched sense of authenticity. When you look at it all, Masefield's entire body of work really is a grand celebration of life. From the brutal beauty of the ocean to the simple wonder of a magical box, his writing is a constant reminder of the complexity, the richness, and the magic of the human experience. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Masefield wrote about finding profound meaning in solitude, in nature, and in the power of our own minds. In our modern world, which is filled with endless noise and distraction, maybe his message of focused wonder is more relevant now than it has